On the slopes of a remote mountain, a young man was walking toward the monastery where monks devoted their lives to the pursuit of enlightenment. The monastery was famous for its wise master, known for teaching the path to truth, though his methods were unknown. Upon arriving, the young man introduced himself to the master, whose presence was both serene and penetrating. "Sir, I have come in search of the truth," said the young man, with determination shining in his eyes. "I want to deeply know myself. I want to discover what is real." The master observed him in silence for a few moments. When he finally spoke, his words were direct and surprising. "Are you willing to risk your entire life for this? The path to truth is long, and it may take a lifetime without reaching it. Even so, there is no guarantee that you will find what you seek. Are you prepared for that?" Without hesitation, the young man replied, "Yes, I am prepared for whatever is necessary. I will not back down." The master nodded slightly, accepting the young man's determination. "Then your journey begins now." With the same calm demeanor, the master paused before continuing. "If you wish to walk the path of truth, there is a task for you." The young man kept his eyes fixed on the master, waiting for instructions that would reveal the secret of enlightenment. "There are 500 monks in this monastery, and they all depend on the rice we pound to survive," said the master. "Your task will be to pound rice for everyone, day after day. Do not think of anything else. Just do this from morning till night. When you are tired, go to sleep, and when you wake up, return to pounding rice. Do not come looking for me. When the time is right, I will come to you." The simplicity of the task shocked the young man for a moment. He had expected something more profound, perhaps guided meditation or the reading of sacred texts. However, he did not question it. He accepted the task with the same determination he had when committing to follow the path. From that day forward, his life became an uninterrupted cycle of work. The constant sound of rice being pounded echoed through the corridors as the young man began his silent journey. In the first few months, the young monk struggled to adapt to the routine. Each day, the work of pounding rice seemed endless. His arms ached, his back throbbed, and his restless mind wandered without control. While his arms performed the mechanical task, thoughts arose without cease. He questioned the purpose of it all. Would this simple task really lead him to enlightenment? What did the master want him to learn from this? The nights brought little relief. The young man slept in the same room where he pounded rice, and the thoughts that haunted him during the day continued to chase him in his sleep. The sound of rice pounding echoed in his mind, mixed with doubts and fears. Nevertheless, he remained faithful to the task, as the master had instructed. He did not approach anyone, and no one sought him out. He was alone, surrounded by the echoes of his own thoughts. Over time, the other monks began to look down on him. "He's just the rice monk," they said, convinced that their tasks of meditation and studying the scriptures elevated them above him. The young man heard the murmurs, but did not respond. All he did was pound rice. As the years passed, something began to change within the young monk. At first, the thoughts still arose, but over time, they began to disappear on their own. With each pound of rice, his mind became calmer. The repetitive work, once exhausting, began to flow naturally, and the young man noticed that he no longer felt the pain in his arms or back. He no longer concerned himself with what the other monks said or did. In fact, he barely noticed them anymore. What once were murmurs of judgment became a distant, insignificant sound. His only reality was the sound of rice pounding, the movement of his hands, the steady rhythm of the work. He was completely immersed in that simple act, without thinking of the past or the future. As the thoughts dissipated, he even began to forget himself. His name, his history, and even the reason he had come to the monastery lost their importance. The young monk entered a state of complete absorption, where the line between himself and the work disappeared. He was no longer pounding rice. He was the act of pounding rice. Years passed without him realizing it, and his silent existence continued, invisible to the other monks. But inside him, A profound and invisible transformation was taking place. He was reaching what he had sought without even knowing it. After 12 years of silence, the master announced that his time was coming to an end. He needed to choose a successor to lead the monastery after he was gone. The news spread quickly among the monks, and excitement took hold of many. Those who had studied Buddhist scriptures and spent years meditating believed they were ready to succeed the master. That same night, the master asked any disciple who had achieved self-realization to write a few lines near the door of his room. These lines were to reflect their experience and understanding of the truth. Many monks, especially the oldest and most experienced, began to reflect on what to write. One of the most erudite monks, widely considered the likely successor, was the first to approach. He wrote confidently, "The mind is like a mirror upon which the dust of thoughts accumulates. Cleaning this dust is meditation. When the mirror is clean, the truth is revealed." When the master saw these lines the next morning, he was furious. "What fool wrote this nonsense?" he shouted. The monks were in shock. Those words, which seemed so wise, were completely rejected. The rice-pounding disciple, now invisible to the others, heard the commotion and smiled slightly. He knew that something deeper was being missed in the words written by the other monks. While the other monks debated who would be the successor and lamented the master's rejection, two of them passed by the rice-pounding disciple, who was still immersed in his work. He chuckled quietly, catching their attention. Intrigued, they asked why he was laughing at the situation. "Because the master is right," he replied simply. "All these lines are useless. They don't capture the truth." Surprised, the monks challenged him. "If that's the case, why don't you write something better?" The rice disciple humbly responded, "I can't write, but I can say a few words. If you'd like, you can write them for me." Curious and with nothing to lose, the monks agreed. They took the disciple to the master's door, and with disarming simplicity, he dictated his words. The monks transcribed, "The mind is an illusion. There is no mind or mirror. And if there is no mind, where can dust settle?" The words were so different from everything else that had been written. There was no erudition, no elaborate metaphors, just a raw and direct truth. The next morning, the master read these lines, and unlike his previous reaction, he stood up immediately. He went straight to the rice disciple's dormitory and found him sleeping. He gently woke him and, without a word, placed in his hands the staff and robe of leadership. "You have found the truth," said the master, with a look of pride and sadness. "But now you must leave." The disciple, still confused by the unexpected honor, touched his master's feet in respect. "Why?" he asked. The master sighed. "The other monks won't understand. They will never accept that someone as simple as you has surpassed them." The rice disciple, still stunned by the sudden responsibility, prepared to leave. The master offered him one final piece of advice. "Your journey now will be to spread the truth you have found. Wherever you go, there will be those who seek to understand what you have achieved." With a slight nod, the disciple left the monastery under the morning light. As he walked away, he looked back one last time. The monks who had once ignored him now watched, some with envy, others with amazement. The transformation they had witnessed was profound, but understanding was still distant. The disciple began his new life, traveling through villages and cities. He spoke little, but his presence and silent, peaceful attitude spoke for themselves. People approached him, drawn by the simplicity and peace he radiated. Without elaborate words, he taught true meditation, which wasn't found in complex formulas or theories, but in being completely present in the moment. As time passed, stories of the rice disciple spread, not as tales of extraordinary skills, but as an example that true enlightenment comes from detachment and simplicity. Meditation wasn't a state to be reached through complex techniques, but a way of living, immersed in the simplicity of the present. And so, the disciple found his place in the world, not through knowledge, but through the depth of his presence and authenticity. And so, we come to the end of our story about the rice disciple and true meditation. We hope this narrative has brought a new perspective on how to find enlightenment through simplicity and being present in the moment. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more inspiring content like this. Share the video with friends and family who might benefit from this message. We greatly appreciate your support. We wish you health and well-being. May your journey towards self-realization be as deep and meaningful as our protagonists. See you in the next video and take care.